year. Joining me now is the CEO of Stifel, Ron Kruszewski. Ron, it's great to see you.
It's great to see you.
Thank you so much for being here. And you know, I know that we're waiting on policies out of the Trump administration, so I want to start there. What do you want to see in terms of deregulation specifically, and how does that lead to growth for your business and the industry?
Well, for industry, deregulation will just help all businesses. What we need to do is we need to take AI and we need to take the Federal Register that has all these rules in it, and then tell AI to summarize it and eliminate the duplicate ones. Okay, that I'm telling you that would really work. Our rule book's this big, and it will not hurt anyone. We'll have the same rules, but we do not need all the regulation, and so I'm excited about that aspect, and that's going to help growth, and that will also tap down inflation.
Yeah, President Trump unveiling all of these sweeping executive orders yesterday for the U.S. economy, and it's including price relief for families, declaring a national emergency in energy. Tell me about the areas that you are focused on in terms of that growth, because I guess the sentiment around investing is pretty positive right now. What are you seeing in your global wealth management business? Well,
first of all, we've just had 2 years of plus 20% returns in the S&P 500. So investors are engaged in their investing. Here in Davos, the mood this year versus last year is incredible. Last year we talked here a lot about climate and a lot of policies that I'm just telling you, I'm reporting is what was happening. Here, all we're talking about, Trump, tariffs, and deregulation.
And AI.
And AI. And a lot of the Europeans are suddenly saying, hey, we need to follow the United States. We have to have less deregulation. A lot of the banks here are also looking for some regulatory relief.
Yeah, I saw a comment from one of the ministers out of Poland who said Trump's revolution on common sense is moving through Europe right now. I thought that was interesting because you're right. Europe is facing some stagnation and needs to actually pump up its own growth.
Well, in fact, one of the things that we need to do or the world needs to do, is to keep up with the United States. We need growth out of Europe and China, frankly, and so that mood, I'm telling you, that mood is there. And so when you talk about, we're going to have sensible immigration, we're going to have energy policies that are going to again be sensible and drive growth. Taxes clearly are going to be done. It'll be interesting though to see, and I think he can do it. But if most presidents with this slim of a margin to be able to get that big, beautiful bill through Congress, I might be a little skeptical, but not now. I actually think this is going to get done.
And we're talking about policy out of the White House, not necessarily it's all on the Fed anymore, right? Let's take a look at yields, because I want to get your take on what the Fed does next. Yields, of course, had spiked over the holidays, and I wonder what that means for business. The Federal Reserve is kicking off its first policy meeting of 2025 next week, with the yield on the 10-year coming down to 4.57%. You were among the few that were not expecting all these rate cuts, right, when we spoke with you last year. What are you expecting from the Fed?
Well, I think the Fed is, frankly, I think the Fed may even be done cutting. I'll go with one. I think the market's saying two, because there's a lot of policy going to happen here, and you have to look at what's going to go on with tariffs, what's going to go on with taxes, what's going to go on with the deficit. But what you need to watch is exactly what you said. Watch the 10-year, because that's going to be the measure of policy and how it's going to react. And where the 10-year settles, we think it'll be around here to maybe 4 3/4. That is a good environment for all the things we're going to do here.
A lot of banks saw a flight of deposits out in the last year. Do you feel like that flight, money coming out of deposit accounts, is over at this point?
I certainly think it has leveled off. We're actually seeing increases in flows in our company, and I think a lot of banks are seeing that. But I will tell you, Maria, I don't want to just forget about that crisis. That would be a mistake. The next crisis, and there'll be another one. There will, I've been doing this a long time, and I've seen a number of them. I want to make sure that we don't lose sight of the fact that flight of deposits away from community banks, that can happen again, and we've got to have some deposit reform.
And that's all about policy in terms of capital, right? I mean, that's all about Basel III and what the policy should be big banks versus small and mid-cap banks should not have the same brushstroke.
Well, and deposit insurance, okay? You cannot, I want to compete with the big banks, but too big to fail is an uneven playing field. But look, let's be optimistic.
Right.
Let's be optimistic about this, okay?
Yeah.
Because what we're going to do, and people say, well, how's Stifel going to benefit? Well, we're going to benefit because the policies being put in place are pro-business, and we are in the business of doing business, and we are going to help finance all of this stuff, and it's an exciting time right now. It's exciting, and even here in Davos, people are walking around with a skip in their step.
Yeah, they really are. And what do you want to say about M&A and potential deal flow this year? I think 2024 was a year of many deals getting pushed back or flat out, no, you can't merge from the FTC. New players in Washington now.
Well, look, back when Biden one of his first actions was to tell everyone in the agencies to M&A. He told the FTC,
right.
He told the Justice Department. Well, Trump's going to do just the opposite. Or he's going to do, in banks, for example, banks are going to be allowed to combine again. I think some of the artificial barriers about what you can do are going to go away. So I think M&A is going to be a big bright spot, certainly in our business.
Terrific. You participated in a leadership strategy here in Davos on shifting demographics and implications for growth. Tell me about that. You've been CEO of Stifel since 1997, the longest tenured active CEO in the brokerage industry, and look at the returns you've had on your watch. Congrats.
Well, thank you. It's been fun. Okay, and past is prologue on that. You know what? One of the things, not that Davos ever gets their reports right, but what the biggest thing that's going to happen here, they said there's a report out that says we'll create 170 million jobs, but we're going to eliminate 90 million jobs. So that's a net gain of, call it 70 million jobs. But what's going to happen is AI agents and what they're going to do, the productivity is going to be unbelievable. But we're going to have to retrain a lot of people. I've always said you won't lose your job to AI, but you will lose your job to someone who knows how to use AI.
Yeah, great point. Because people need to understand this. They have to bone up on training in order to best compete.
It's incumbent upon us. I'm sure that some of that $500 billion is going to go to training people on AI, and the productivity that will come out of that will really fuel growth.
Great point. Ron, nice to talk to you this morning.
Great to see you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Ron Kruszewski here in Davos with me. Your morning.